Well, now I continue with a discussion of the first Yod verbs that actually were originally first Yod verbs. Most first Yod verbs in Hebrew were actually originally first Vav verbs, but there are a number of original first Yod verbs, and they will behave differently than original first Vav verbs. Again, in the perfect, it doesn't show up, but within the imperfect, you would originally have had a theoretical imperfect form of Rosh, from your Rosh, to take possession of, to depossess. But that's the form you would expect. But then, because the Yod has got a tendency to become a vowel letter, it just becomes a vowel letter Yod, and you end up with Yirash without the Shabbat. But otherwise, that's close to what you would say if you pronounced it as if it were a regular verb. And so you get Yirash, Tirash, on down the list. Imperatival forms. If you take the second person forms of the imperfect of Yirash, second person masculine singular would be Tirash, drop the T, you get Yirash. That's one form you might get, or you may just lose the vowel letter Yod 2 and get Resh or Rosh. So there's actually three different forms of the imperative of Yirash. The form Yireh, which means to be afraid, in the imperfect, it shows up with a kamatz because of the aleph at the end, a double weakness of that verb. And so you get Yira, and then when you drop the T, Tira, you do get Yira, so the Yod does show up in that, and that would be what you would expect if you just dropped the T. The infinitive construct for Yireh is regular with a Shabbat and a Holam, as you would have with a strong verb. Though with Yirash, it does the thing of adding the T at the end and following a siglet pattern, Reshet. So there will be some variation among original first Yod verbs as to exactly how to do the infinitive construct. And even the imperatives, there can be more than one form. Hifil. If you took a verb like Yatav, to be good, and made it into a Hifil form, you would expect, if it were a strong verb, to be Hitiv. He made something good, he caused something to be good, increased the goodness of, different meanings of stative verb in the Hifil. But because of the first Yod being a weak letter, it ends up instead being a Hativ instead of a Hetiv. And that Sere also shows up in the imperfect as well. Yativ, he will cause to be good or increase the goodness of. As far as vocabulary, he gives you many first Yod verbs. So you have Yada, which most often occurs in the Hifil, which means to give thanks or to praise, Hoda. And in the Hithpael can mean to confess. And note in the Hithpael, the original first Vav shows up, so it ends up being Hit Vada as the form. With Yahav, that means to give. It occurs most often as an imperative, Hav or Hava. Maybe you're familiar with the Jewish folk song, Hava Nagila. which means literally, come, let us be glad. And this imperatival form is used, even though the verb originally meant to give, idiomatically it comes to mean to come or let us do something. And so hava nagila means come, let us rejoice or let us be glad. And then yatav means to be good or well or pleasing. Again, the imperfect form would be yitav. Yasaf in the cow means to add, and also is used in the hiphil, meaning to add, to cause to add. The name Joseph, Yosef, is a form built off of that verbal root. May he add another son. And then Yara means to throw or to cast. And there's a related noun, Torah. In the hiphil, it means to throw, point, or direct, or to teach. And Torah means teaching or direction or instruction. And that's a real common word, Torah, often translated law, but it's really more of a pedagogical term, instructions or directions, related to the hiphil form of the root yara. Yarash means to inherit or take possession, or it can mean to depossess. Notice the imperfect form shows it in original Yod, and the imperative forms. And then yashan means to sleep. The imperfect would be yishan, with infinitive construct. With preposition la would be lishon. And then yashain is a biform of it. Sometimes it's spelled with a patah, sometimes with a sere. I suspect one of those is probably pasul. And then you have yasha, used in the nifal to be saved, used in the hiphil to save or to deliver. So the nifal is passive, to be saved. The hiphil would be to save or deliver, Hoshea. He saved, he delivered. The name Jesus, Yeshua, is related to the imperfect of that form. It's actually short for Joshua, which is Yahoshua, which means God is salvation. And then you have Yatar. In the nifal, it means to be left over or to remain over. The hiphil means to leave or let remain. That would be a ho-tir would be the hiphil form. Few nouns. Dor, spelled either defectively or plain, means a generation or an age or a period of time. And then you have yamin, which is right hand. You have the personal name Benjamin, which means son of the right hand. And then a few other forms. Levad means alone. The word bod has to do with separation, from badad meaning to separate or isolate, and la is often just preposition added to it with regard to separation, meaning alone. And then an adjective, karov, means to be near. And then rahok is far or distant. And it can also be used as a noun, distance. Exercises will let you play with these original first Yod verbs. So make sure you distinguish whether it's original first Yod or original first Vav, and use the correct form accordingly. If you really want to double check, you could look at Brown Driver Briggs, which will give you an idea of which one it would be. And you can also take some of these forms and translate them into English, as in say, which means imperative, meaning go forth, and on down that list. And then he gives you a bunch of sentences to translate from Hebrew to English, many of which will use some of these forms, and at least a few of them are from the Hebrew Bible itself. So I think I'll stop here, hit Re'ot, and we'll see you later.